Starting. Okay, says we're live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Geek Mythology with Dave T. Geek. Oh, hang on, I gotta mute something there. Gotta mute that so there's no echo. And so I'm here today with Professor Geek himself. He's a famous YouTuber and an actual real life college professor.
Thank you. I don't know how famous.
And you're a great YouTuber, and so Professor Geek he's got his own YouTube channel where he talks about lots of the geek related comic books and movies and things like that, and
cultural mythology.
Cultural mythology and how it how the story impacts that, and so he kind of dissects the story a lot and talks about archetypes. It's really great channel.
Well, thank you.
But tell us a little bit about your professorship, I suppose.
Well, first of all, let me say hi to the chat because I haven't seen some of you guys in ages. I mean, Stephen Cruz, Jake Quinlan, Crizzy Kitty. Where have you guys been? It's been forever since. I'm joking because I just saw them all on the Fanman's channel. But my professorship. Well, I'm not actually teaching right now because I just wrapped up the semester. So I'm hoping that I won't have to go back to teaching other than just teaching a class at a time here and there if I want to. We're going to see how that works out. But I'm hoping that with the campaigns and with the channel that I can really, doing a little side consulting and stuff like that here on the side, but hoping I can make a go of that. So we'll see. But my field of expertise, I study both literature and writing. So I would teach both of those. But academically, I was always interested in cultural mythology, like modern cultural studies, looking at primarily superheroes, but geek culture in general, and seeing how it operates as a mythology in our culture, both on a societal level and also an individual level in our psychology. So that's been my focus and interest, and I started the channel to reflect that. So it's been pretty fun so far. People seem to respond well to it, and it's going well.
Yeah. So you're the perfect guest to have on a show called Geek Mythology.
Thank you.
You are an expert in the field. Today, basically, Endgame came out, and it's been this long coming culmination of what we call the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so tonight we're going to focus on talking about Endgame and just the MCU in general. I thought we could talk about. So first off, what was your thoughts of Endgame?
Well, like I said in a few videos, I think there's some really epic stuff in it. Really cool, epic stuff in it that can't be denied. And that was fun to see. I mean, should we go full spoilers, or are you trying to avoid spoilers there? I mean, it's been out for a while. But...
Yeah, this is it's complete spoilers tonight.
Okay, so, good. All right, yeah.
You've been warned, everyone.
Okay. So, Cap wielding Mjolnir was just everything. That was just beautiful. Loved it so much. I loved so many really cool moments. The MCU, they know how to do things. They know how to tell good stories when they want to. So they had a lot of great cool moments, like that one moment where the battle's a bit of a standstill, and then you hear Falcon tell Cap on the radio, "On your left," and then all of a sudden everybody who'd been dusty comes back. That was epic. That was just amazing. That was wonderful. So I really liked a lot of that, a lot of those scenes like that. And we can talk about more that was great in the film because there was a lot of great stuff. But I feel like overall, if you have to give it at the end of the day, you have to give it a grade. I would call the film a failure for what it was trying to be. And I don't mean a failure as a movie, period. I mean a failure as the ending, culminating end cap, the last chapter of this huge, not even phase of the MCU, but first whole big volume of the MCU. That's what it's supposed to be. I feel like it failed in its job to do that. And I feel like some of the choices that were made were clearly driven by political agenda, where that failed the storytelling. So that's where I give it the final grade. But that doesn't mean at all that I'm like, oh, it's a crap movie. Everything sucked in it. I hated everything. Not at all.
Well, and I don't know. I'm still trying to. I need to go see it again because this dissecting it and stuff.
What
But
when did you see it last?
well, I went a week late because my wife wanted to take me to the IMAX
Hmm.
version of it for our anniversary. So she made me wait to see it until we could watch it in IMAX.
Yeah.
And
So it was about a week ago you saw it,
it
or
was it was like the second weekend that I went and saw it.
okay? Because
And
I had to process things when I saw it, and eventually I kind of. I mean, I never changed my mind to that initial reaction, but I,
mhm,
eventually was able to calculate and process and to talk specifically about what bothered me and what I like specifically.
mm. Well, yeah, that's interesting because and maybe it's the situation, because it was my anniversary date and we went and saw
Oh,
it
sure.
on IMAX and stuff. So maybe that enhanced my enjoyment.
Hmm.
I'm still trying to decide if that's biased me at all, but or maybe it's because my expectations were tempered because I was worried about certain things or whatever. But
Oh, yeah, that's true. If you were thinking it was going to be really horrible and then it wasn't, yeah, that's true.
but yeah, I think yeah, when after watching it, I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. As far as I don't know if I'm ready to rate it as a film or whatever, um, but yeah, going back to what you were talking about with as an end cap. So, like, did you think like what do you mean by that? Do you think like it didn't tie up things well enough, or didn't send off characters well enough, or?
Yeah, some of them. I thought Iron Man was done perfectly. I really do. I've
Hmm.
heard some people say they didn't like it, and I don't like to see Iron Man die off at all. But looking at the story arc that they've been developing with him since the very first movie, this was the place it had to go. He had to end up
Hmm.
making a huge heroic selfless sacrifice of himself, and that's what he, because his whole being in the cave with Yen Sid in that first movie. He was they even make the comment, or it's brought up somehow, I forget the exact wording. I think Yen Sid brings it up or whatever, but if you died today, what would you be remembered for? And he
Hmm.
realizes, as a weapons manufacturer, and he wants to be remembered for so much more than that. And that's been kind of his arc throughout the whole MCU. And then we have this wonderful moment in Avengers 2012 when he and Cap are kind of going back and forth, and he says, Cap says, "You're not the guy to lay down the line and sacrifice yourself." And we see Iron Man does that at the end of that movie, and that's really
Hmm.
great. But it's a little bit of a, I don't know. It's a great moment. It's a great movement in that character arc and progression, but at the same time, it really affects him. I mean, that's his old post traumatic stress disorder, and it's the Iron Man 3, and then
Hmm.
reacting negatively and completely reactionary in Age of Ultron and causing more trouble and averaging out, eventually being, going off and doing all the things he does in Civil War. He's really trying to find his medium ground and where he can just be as a hero. And I felt like at the end of Endgame, with that sacrifice he made,
Hmm.
that really was perfect. I thought he, out of all the characters, had the most perfect and pristine character arc through the MCU. So I like that one.
Yeah.
Other ones, not so much. But what do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, I really liked it too. Especially with you know, when he said "I am Iron Man,"
Yeah, yeah, that was great.
snapped his finger, or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was a good send off for him. Let's see. What about our other characters? Well, and we'll get to Captain America because I want to talk about how there's a lot of discussion about time travel, and I don't know. I haven't listened to everybody's criticisms of it, but for me, I thought the time travel worked, except for the last thing with Captain America is where it got broken. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I like Hawkeye's arc in this. Uh, Black Widow, I think I was satisfied generally with her sacrifice, but uh, I was slightly, disappointed that she wouldn't be in the whole film. She kind of
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, she's ending here. We're not going to see her anymore after this,"
Hmm.
and and it also made me not excited for her movie because now it has to be a prequel,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I didn't want. Um, but yeah, and Thor, it was a little weird where you had to pass on being the king or whatever, but the thing I was excited for was seeing him with the Guardians and where that's gonna go.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what other thoughts did you have?
Which one of those would you like me to speak to first?
Well, go whichever, tackle whichever one you.
Well, let's look at so Hawkeye. Uh, as a writer, I would have liked to have seen more. I would have liked to have seen and be shown more of his arc rather than just having it told. Okay, he does this, then he goes crazy. Now he's back being a hero again. But at the same time, he's never been a character in the universe that was ever given much screen time. So yeah, I can kind of whatever. Okay, that's what's going on with Hawkeye. I don't really like it, but I don't like how it was handled. But at the same time, they've kind of set the precedent for just sort of glossing over him. He's one of the lesser of the Avengers, So I didn't really, but whatever. That doesn't really upset me. Black Widow, for me, I do agree, and I think that once you're in that scene, it makes perfect sense for her to want to sacrifice everything for Clint. I mean, that's everything he's done for her. That's very yeah.
He gave her second chance, and now she's giving him his second chance.
Yeah, and she's talked about in the Avengers how she had red in her leisure and stuff like that. Of course, we know it's not just about that; it's also about her caring for him and the way he kind of allowed her to be a family person a little bit. She was kind of auntie to his children. And that was a big deal. So I don't have any problem with the logic of that in the moment of the scene. My problem with it, though, is the character development of her throughout the MCU. She was denied any real meaningful character development with this ending. So we've seen her character arc go from just a hardcore agent, there with Iron Man 2 and such. We saw in Avengers, as we were just talking about, her care for Clint, and we're really trying to strive to be more, and she decides, I'm not going to be an agent anymore. I'm going to be a hero. I'm not just a spy. I'm actually going to be out there fighting for people. That's really great. And then in Winter Soldier was a beautiful moment where she realizes, hey, I can just be a platonic friend, to somebody like Captain America. That was just a beautiful, her, and then she dealing with the fact that shield's falling down around her, everything that she thought and hung her identity on. That was great. And Age of Ultron, I liked her romance with Banner. I know that a lot of people didn't, but I thought it was done well. If you're going to do it, I thought that was a great Beauty and the Beast kind of moment. You dealt with her flashbacks to not ever being able to have children, in Age of Ultron and such. And I feel like having this ending in Endgame gives her an ending that doesn't honor any of that progression, because she would have made this sacrifice all the way back in the Avengers 2012 movie.
Yeah.
This is no real great culminating moment that really honors how far she's come and everything. It just kind of treats her more like, you're just one of the lesser characters too. And on one hand, she is, but especially with all of their touting, they want to, give women the forefront now and stuff like that. She's a beloved character, a beautiful character that everyone loved, and she's a strong feminine character. There you go. But they didn't like the way she was, I think, and that's why they didn't bother giving her much more. So yeah, I just
do you think they could have set up something in this film, like a conflict that would lead to a progression to her in this film? Like, I don't know. It's really tough with these films because they don't have a lot of time to set up arcs for everyone.
Yeah, and
but
I don't really know what the answer to that is. I think one of the biggest answers to a lot of the problems, well, I mean, not all of them, but some of them, I think, is that, again, I'm just looking at the whole MCU as though it's one continuous story. And on some level, it is that, at some level it is. And I think that they needed more movies in between Endgame and the character progressions they left people with at the end of Infinity War. I mean, not necessarily between those two movies, but we just needed more because, yes, Black Widow was a side Avengers kind of character, but they brought her in so many different movies and made her important in so many of the other characters' movies that we wanted a bit more from her. We wanted a bit more from her. We wanted a bit more from somebody like Hawkeye or the Hulk, definitely the Hulk and such. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
what did you think of Banner Hulk?
Did not like that at all. Now,
Did not?
I don't
I
mind.
think I heard you say something about not liking it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it because I always thought there was always different versions of Hulk in the comics. There's Banner Hulk, there's Smart Hulk, there's Gray Hulk, there's Savage Hulk.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought, oh yeah, it's fun. We finally get a new version of the Hulk. But
yeah,
what was your thinking of it?
I mean, you're right. Professor Hulk was a thing in the comics, and I don't mind this happening to him and this being part of his arc. But what really let me down about this was that the directors and people in Ruffalo himself had been saying that they were planning a really great character progression for him through Ragnarok, Infinity War, and then Endgame. So in Ragnarok, we saw the great new moment of the Hulk taking over, and now they're really split and they're kind of fighting for dominance of the person. And then in Infinity War, there's this mysterious, how Hulk doesn't want to come out and take center stage anymore. What's that about? And they it just feels like they dropped the ball and said, we're tired of that story. We're not going to tell that story anymore. We're just going to have him sit at a table and tell you about something he did, and we're just going to roll with that and move ahead.
Yeah, I guess they did gloss over that.
Yeah,
that whole thing between Hulk in Infinity War and why he didn't want to come out and stuff. And they're just like, well, I just figured out how to blend us together. That's true. They kind of
it wasn't the fact that they did it; it was just how it was done.
How it was done. That's true. I didn't think about that really, but if you're going back and watching Infinity War and that whole thing with Hulk, then you realize, oh yeah, they didn't really pay that off very well.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see smart Hulk, Professor Hulk a little bit.
Yeah. Kind of makes you wish they could have done some of the other kinds of Hulks in the comics as well. Like
and they almost did Gray Hulk in Age of Ultron, but I think they decided it was confusing for test audiences because
I didn't know that.
They were going to, when he's hallucinating, and fighting against Hulkbuster.
Oh, okay.
He was going to be gray.
Oh,
during that whole sequence to just be like, oh, this is because he's like out of his mind or he's hallucinating, he's going crazy. But so they were going to do that, but then they decided, I think with test audiences, people were like, why is he gray? And so they didn't do it. So.
Oh, it's interesting. I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah. But let's see. So we talked about Hulk. Okay, let's talk about Thor.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay. Well, Thor.
Now,
go ahead.
You weren't the biggest fan of Fat Thor, or?
No, I didn't like that. Didn't like that. Do you want to talk about it, or did you want to give an argument for it, or?
Well, no. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't think much of it. That was one thing I was spoiled to before watching it. Like I avoided spoilers for that whole week or whatever that I didn't get to see it, but that was one thing that I saw in articles and stuff like Fat Thor and and stuff like that. So I knew he was going to be fat at some point in the movie for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I was thinking there was more controversy around it because of people talking about fat shaming and all this weird stuff.
Oh,
and then when it turned out he was just like, the Big Lebowski version of Thor or whatever. It was I don't know. It's kind of fun. It wasn't anything like I thought it might be or whatever. So.
Yeah. Well, no,
so maybe that was the case of tempered expectations.
No, it's a good point. I mean, you're absolutely right. It was he was funny as that kind of character, and it got a lot of audience laughs. I remember everybody was responding to it quite humorously in the theater when I saw it. Again, though, my problem with it is looking at his character, and I'm not even like, I know Fan Man, is a major Thor fan, so I can understand if people are big time Thor fans from the comics being really pissed off that their heroes, kind of treated like the comic relief. And, I understand that. And I kind of share that to an extent, but I've never really been a major Thor follower in the comics. But just in terms of the writing of his character arc in this universe, again, it just didn't make sense to me. And people try to defend it and say, well, it's, Survivor's Guilt's very real. And this is what he was doing and showing. He's a thunder guy. He's a god of thunder from Asgard. He's not going to exhibit our show Survivor's Guilt in exactly the same way a human or a veteran might, and I thought that we just seen him. I mean, look at his character arc and the things he's gone through from the Thor movie, the first one, learning how to be a hero and not be the spoiled little prince, moving on into Avengers, where he really is proving the hero in every way and really taking a stand in the dark world, where he's trying to come to terms with the love that he has for Midgard and Asgard, and gathering the two and losing his mother. That was a huge deal. We had Thor Ragnarok, Age of Ultron, needing to go back and spend more time with Asgard. Ragnarok, where everything was taken from him in Ragnarok. And I didn't like the way that movie was such just a laughable comedy in every way. I thought it could have been played a little more serious in places for his character arc, but I love the idea that, that's powerful. Thor's hammer was taken from him. man,
Yeah.
that is profound. And I thought that his character arc in that movie, by the end of it, realizing that he doesn't need a hammer, he is that power. That was just so amazing. And stepping up and
Mhm.
being the king that he's supposed to be. And all of that's kind of taken from him at the beginning of Infinity War, but he's determined, he's going to fight for it, he's going to, keep going. And
Right.
I didn't find it
Infinity Wars.
believable. Yeah, I just didn't find it believable that now he would not only would he just decide that I don't care anymore or whatever, I'm just going to get fat and everybody else can do what they want to do, but he also kills Thanos in cold blood. I didn't feel like that was the kind of thing that he would do at this point in his life. I mean, Thanos needed to die, of course, but in battle or something. I just thought I thought they were really chipping away at his character to try and make him, and they never really gave him anything back. They had him do some cool fighting at the end, but his
Mhm.
whole growth at the end of the movie is realizing, yeah, I'm just not really worthy of being a king here. So I'm just going to go off, hang out with these, these scoundrels in space and see what happens. And I just thought, again, looking at the
Uh,
character arc throughout the cinematic universe, it was not satisfying to me for that.
yeah,
Does that
yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, I guess it wasn't like a super. He didn't get a really awesome send off, but
Mhm.
I don't know if maybe that's because they're planning on using him in Guardians, and so they didn't feel the need to to give him a nice ending or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I guess he was on a path of vengeance in Infinity War, so
Mhm.
I didn't mind the whole chopping Thanos' head off. It was a little neat that it just like that they just did that like right at the beginning of the movie, like, oh, Thanos is dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you kind of weren't expecting that, and so then you were like, okay, well now what's gonna happen, and
Mhm.
how are they gonna do this or whatever. But
Did they release? Was it? Am I just thinking it's a rumor, or did they actually say it? Is Beta Ray Bill going to be in the next Guardians, or is that just me misremembering something?
uh I don't think that I've never heard anything about
I,
Beta Ray Bill. Adam Warlock was set up
yeah, definitely.
um
Yeah.
and in the end credits scene of Guardians 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always thought my pick for Beta Ray Bill, I would well, of course his head would be like a CGI head.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I would cast Hugh Jackman with his Australian accent as Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, that's a good way. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, they did have the Beta Ray Bill head as part of the palace at Sakaar. They had the
That's
Hulk
right.
statue
Yeah.
and the Beta Ray Bill. Yeah,
So that's who I would cast for Beta Ray Bill.
that's a good casting. I didn't think about that. That's good.
Yeah, it's a great way to put Hugh Jackman in the MCU without it being like, hey, it's Wolverine. You won't see his face,
Yeah,
and he would have an Australian accent, not his American accent.
yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. Uh, I was a little sad that I don't like. It was kind of I don't know, maybe because they're planning on doing something in Guardians 3, but I was confused why they didn't keep Gamora from the past alive. Um, like she disappeared during Tony Stark's snap,
Yeah, they didn't really make it
and I was like,
clear.
"Whoa,"
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was like, "Well, I guess they didn't show her get disappeared, but like she was just gone after that,
You
and
didn't see her on the
we don't
ship at
know
the
what
end.
happened to her."
Yeah, yeah. And plus,
And
there was that.
you saw Peter Quill was like scanning, trying to find her or whatever,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
so I was like, "Well, wait, like." That was just like the perfect opportunity to bring Gamora back without uh without you know without more shenanigans
eating the Soul Stone. Yeah,
going into the Soul Stone and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, but I guess then you'd have to redo the whole romance thing because that's a Gamora that never fell in love with Peter Quill.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, so I'm curious as to how they're going to handle that because I don't know. Do you think that they're just not going to have Gamora come back or?
I think she's probably just gone at this point. I do. I think she was a casualty of the war. I can't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but yeah, I think she's probably just gone at this point. And, not that Zoe.
Like, okay, so here's another question. Do you think that they're trying to get rid of all romances
I,
in the MCU? Because if she's gone, that was one romance. Pepper Potts and Tony Stark was the other one that was
Mhm.
the main one.
Mhm.
They've established that Captain Marvel, I don't know if she's going to be gay, but they made sure that she didn't have a romantic interest.
Yeah.
Uh, is Shuri. Well, we'll see if they continue the Shuri and T'Challa romance or not.
Shuri and T'Challa? Not Shuri, that's his sister.
Oh, not Shuri.
Nakoya.
Nakia.
Yeah, Nakia.
Yeah, hopefully they don't do a Shuri.
That'd be weird. Yeah,
But it
that's a good
has
point.
been. I mean, if you look at Phase One, every single one has like a romantic interest,
Mhm.
and then along the way they kind of just like abandoned any type of romance
Yeah,
in the movies. Like, say the Pepper and Tony is kind of the only one that survived, and then the Infinity War introduced Gamora and Peter, but then she died. So
yeah, yeah. I
I
think
don't
you're
know.
on.
It's like a trend. Like even in Star Wars and stuff,
Mhm.
there's like and it probably has to do with a lot of this weird ideology stuff leaking into the movies, but like this weird aversion to having romance in the movies.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. And this is the new turn from the hero's journey to the feminist journey. And
Hmm.
she doesn't need a man, or if she has to have a man, like Ant-Man and Wasp, you're going to see Wasp being a lot more dominant in that relationship because that'll be part of it. Yeah, I mean that's part of the turning away from the hero's journey, which is what I mean when I say the MCU is going to be on a slow decline now. Its days are numbered because they're turning away from the formula that resonates the most within the human psyche. So it'll still
Hmm.
have its fanfare. It's not going to, boom, it's over dead now, but it'll be a slow petering out of it. And then people will probably just try and mark it up to, oh, well, that's just the superhero fad's finally over when it didn't have to be.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the future,
Yeah.
but yeah. Okay, so all right, let's talk about time travel. How about that?
Okay, sure.
Because a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people seem to have a problem with the time travel in this movie, and I don't get it because it made sense to me, I thought, but
Hmm.
explain to me what you think about the time travel.
Well, I mean, I think it's important to anybody that's talking about it. Is first of all, okay, time travel is actually not a real thing, and at least not that anybody's actually discovered and scientifically quantified or whatever. I know it's very much a lot of theories and stuff like that going around in like quantum physics and whatnot, and that's fine. But
Hmm.
for a fiction film, I don't have a problem with the movie setting up. This is the rule. This is the way that we're going to treat time travel in this movie. Well, that's
Hmm.
fine. That's fine. But then they have to be true to that way
To
of
the
treating time
rules.
travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some cheats in that. That didn't even bother me, though, quite as much as the spirit in which the time travel was taking. Like, I felt like when they went back to all these different periods, they were treating it as a joke. And these movies, this is a cinematic universe that means a great deal to people. And I feel like when they went back to the 2012 Avengers scene, I feel
Hmm.
like they were just kind of making fun of it, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to see this sort of meta deconstruction, from my final chapter in the phase or in the volume. I wanted to see a good culminating themes. I didn't want to see Iron Man be like, "Okay, we're done posing now. Let's go to the elevator,"
Yeah.
or Cap kind of making fun of himself and talking about his butt and everything. I didn't like the spirit of that at all.
You didn't like that America's butt thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, didn't. I didn't like the spirit of it. It's just it felt like it was mocking itself, which I didn't think was a good move for the final culminating
Uh,
moment. You know?
okay, yeah, I can see that. Uh, I think the way I took it was just they wanted to kind of have a lighthearted second act before the final, the serious final battle or whatever. And
Well,
they were kind of taking a page from Back to the Future 2, I think, where you
mhm.
revisit the old movies and things that we've already seen before, but from a different angle, or seeing a few different things we didn't see or whatever. But
If you don't mind, I just want to break from the conversation for a second here. Black Angus Reviews in the chat has
Mhm.
just backed Tales from the Stacks, and I don't know if you know this, Black Angus Reviews, but Dave
Whoa,
Dave T here is the artist, so you've got both the writer and the artist here hanging out with you. So thank you so much for backing. Appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, we'll plug that sometime during the movie Tales from the Stacks. Black Angus. Oh, where's my chat?
Yeah, but in
I
terms,
just have one little laptop screen, so it's hard
oh
for
yeah,
me
I
to
know, understand.
pull up
In
the.
terms of the time travel rules, though, I'm okay with the okay. There's these, so it was gonna be alternate timelines unless the time stones were returned. Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right, that's fine. But
Mhm.
that means then when Cap, or do you want to talk about Cap yet, or do you want to wait for that?
No, yeah, go ahead.
So as long as Cap goes back and returns all the stones at the moment they were taken, then no divergent timelines are created. All right,
Mhm.
that's those are the rules here. We're good with that. Okay. Um, that
Was
means
it-
though, and that sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I wasn't sure if it was that was the thing I was confused about because with the whole thing with the Ancient One and Hulk or Bruce
Mhm.
Banner's spirit or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh, they made it. I think the Hulk made it seem like, oh, okay, well, if they put the stones back,
no more
it
divergent
kind of
timeline.
it eliminates the divergent timeline. But part of it, the way she was explaining it, wasn't that it would be eliminated. It'd be that her timeline would be without the stone.
Hmm.
So I had the two different ideas in my head at the same time. That okay, it's not that it's eliminating the divergent timeline; it's that they're returning the stone to that timeline to uh, give it back to them, so that it's not so catastrophic for that timeline for that universe,
Hmm.
and that it
Well, that,
would continue to be a separate. Because really, if you think about it, as soon as you travel back in time, it doesn't matter if they return the stone or not; they still would have been there and taken the stone and returned it. So there would be a divergent timeline no matter what.
yeah,
So I was
it's
confused about that. So I think I just went with the fact that it wasn't eliminating the universe, because I think later in the movie they actually talked about there being multiple universes still
mhm.
that were created from the time travel or something. But
Did they?
I
I,
don't
I
know.
missed that part. Um, but see, here's it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's you can take it that way, or you can take it this way. But again, approaching it from the storytelling perspective, if you're going to do something like time travel, I felt like it needed to be explained a bit better because okay,
Yeah.
it made sense so far, but now you've got Loki. Loki took off at the end of that Avengers, when he takes the Tesseract. And so both Loki and the Tesseract are now gone from Earth. They never make it back to Asgard. So they're never there for the dark side. They're never there for any of that. What does that mean? That's a whole other universe. And I know they're probably going to want to explore that a little bit in the Disney Plus series they're going to do. But then you've got so many little things like that didn't like that opens up a whole new, you can't just gloss over that. You can't just kind of throw that in real quick. When Cap goes
Hmm.
back and returns the stones, that means that Cap had to go back and face the Red Skull. No one's going to talk about this. No one's going to say, "Hey, how did that go? Hey, that's a thing that's going to happen now." I mean, oh my gosh, Cap had to face the Red Skull again. Why wouldn't you show me that? And like I said
He
too,
did.
if well, yeah, because the Red
Wait.
Skull is the keeper of the Soul Stone. So if Cap goes back to take the Soul Stone back, then he's
Oh,
going to meet the Red Skull.
to what's that planet called again?
Yeah, whatever the planet was called with the Soul Stones there.
He,
Um,
he would have met the. That's true. I didn't even
yeah,
think about that. He would have
I mean,
met.
that's,
He would have met the Phantom Red Skull that was there.
mhm. And little things like, okay, so if he goes back, so I guess if divergent timelines are created no matter what, then that makes more sense. But I feel like they should have taken the time to really assert that a bit more because
Yeah,
people are
they
gonna
could
have
have
questions.
explained that better, because that's how I took it. Though I was that,
Mhm.
or at least that's how it should work. Anyways,
Yeah.
is that would that be that the divergent timelines still go off? They're still separate from theirs,
Hmm.
but returning them just kind of corrects them a bit, or and makes them less less potential for weird catastrophes or
Yeah.
paradoxes or whatever.
And it still doesn't make sense when Cap comes back and suddenly he has a shield again. Okay, so let's take it as though he went back and created a divergent timeline. First of all, it's really weird and creepy. Like I said in some video, if he goes back and marries Peggy Carter, that kind of betrays all of his character progression about just moving on, realizing that the past is the past, and I still have more to give in the world now. That kind of
Mhm.
takes away all that. Plus, this he's living with Peggy Carter now in this divergent timeline. So when along comes her niece, little Sharon Carter, and they go see all the birth of her niece, and he's like, "Hey, I remember when I made out with you when you were older." That's just creepy. That's not Steve, right? That got weird. But in terms of the time travel, where does that shield come from? He has to steal that shield from someone then because his is gone. So
Well, I'm trying to remember. He didn't bring it back in time.
no, he didn't have a shield at that point because Thanos had destroyed his shield.
Kind of smashed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
he
was
comes
under.
back.
I was thinking that he had brought it back in time. Well, because Wakanda's there, they could always
Mhm.
make him a new one or something. But I guess. I didn't remember that. So he
Yeah.
did not bring a shield with him.
No, he brought that back from the past. When I mean, yeah, there are ways to describe it. Like, he could have sidetracked over to Wakanda and had another shield made or whatever. I mean, you don't know, anything like that could have happened. But again, it just felt like too much shoved in at the end there, real quick, to hurry up and get his character out of there and write him off for good storytelling. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, see, this is how I would fix that whole thing, because it doesn't. Well, at least fix the paradox that they created. Because if he went back in time and stayed there, he would be in a different timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way that he would be at the park bench as an old man, because that's happening in a different timeline,
Mm-hmm.
a different alternate version. So, but the thing is, the way that they set it up to work here, I'll show. I tried to make these little charts so I could visually show my interpretation of their time travel, or whatever. But screen share. Whoops. Application window.
I'd also like to know what happens to poor Cap in the 2012 when he just got hit by the Mind Stone in Loki's staff. I mean, we've only ever known the Mind Stone to brainwash people, and how does present day Cap know how to wield the staff? And it has an extra new power now, which just puts people to sleep. Again, just too many easy contrived elements just to make the plot work. It felt like.
Okay, so you're seeing my screen here.
I don't see your screen. Oh wait, it might be a little bit of a lag. Let me see. Oh yeah, I see your screen. Yeah, we see it. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. So, okay, my first little timeline. So, the way it works is with a divergent timeline is you go back in time, that automatically creates an alternate reality that splits off from the original timeline,
mm-hmm.
and you move on from there. So, typically, though, if that's how you're working, if you move forward in time from the point that you traveled back in time from, you're moving forward to the alternate reality's future. Mm-hmm. There's some of this in Back to the Future. It's all it's basically also how Homer Simpson and the time traveling toaster work. he can basically never go back to his original timeline, because every time he does, it's a divergent timeline, and he finally settles for coming back to a present where all of his family have like lizard tongues. And he says, well, that's close enough. And so he stays there. So to get around this, they had Tony Stark invent that, some random time travel GPS thing. So that the time travel machine that they had in the present time, the big, huge platform that they go from, is able to basically call out to anywhere in anywhere throughout time and space, locate those little trackers and pull those people back, not only to their time, but to their reality as well. And pull them back to their own timeline.
Yeah.
And so that's how they kind of got around that.
Yeah.
So like here, it doesn't matter. And the other thing was, it doesn't matter how long that they're gone. Whenever they hit their little return activator on their wristband, however long it's been, it's going to pull them back to the moment that that they get, sucked back from the machine or whatever. So, so then here, so basically with the three different teams, there was three, probably I guess 4 different timelines that were created because Captain America and Tony Stark make a second jump back to what was it, the 70s, when they go to the Shield headquarters.
Oh yeah, the 70s. Yeah. I did like that. I liked Tony seeing his father there. That was a really great touch for his character progression too.
Yeah, that was they got to chat for a little bit. I was glad that they just kind of, for a second, when you see Howard Stark, see him there, you think it could be like he doesn't trust him and like, hey, I don't recognize you, get security,
or
whatever. and you think it like, oh, it could cause like this conflict or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like that they didn't go that route. That he just was like thought of he was just some like intern guy or something,
Yeah.
and he was just chatting with him or whatever.
Yeah. They needed their moment. Yeah.
Uh, okay, so with Captain America though, so basically when he goes, so the assumption has to be that their machine that can send them can also kind of reverse the GPS effect and can send Cap to all the different realities and different timelines
Mhm.
that were created in all the mess. And that eventually, when he got rid of all the stones, he stayed in whichever one he was in.
Mhm.
And so then Hulk says, "Okay, we're going to wait 5 seconds. It's for him, it's going to be as long as he needs to return all the stones, but for us, it's going to be 5 seconds, and we're going to
Mhm.
pull him back here."
Yeah.
So the easy way to fix at least the problem with the fact that Captain America couldn't be in their timeline would be when they pull him back after 5 seconds, you have him reappear on that platform,
Mhm.
and maybe you do like a shot from the side or behind, like an obscure shot where you can't really tell, if it's really him or what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the camera pans over and you see like gray hair instead of blonde hair.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you realize, oh, he's like 90-year-old Captain. So
Yeah.
basically, he would have lived his life out in that alternate reality. And then after Peggy Carter dies or whatever, he decides, oh, you know what? I want to go back and see my friends from my original timeline. I missed them. And he still has the Ant-Man suit and the device to go back, and he hits the return button
Mhm.
and it pulls him back to that moment. Doesn't matter where he is on the timeline.
Mhm.
And so that would fix that loophole that they created.
Yeah.
At
That's
least
a that's a good point when it's such a small little touch about having him return to the literal place he was supposed to return, not like over there on a bench. Now I know why they did that because they wanted they're hell bent on getting Falcon. You have the shield now. They wanted to have
well,
Sam Wilson step away.
you still could
So
have had that. I mean, you just have him come back with the shield or whatever.
well, yeah, but then like have them step away. I don't know. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think that's one of the problems. So just such a little thing, not having him come back on a bench, but having him come back where people expect him to would have made things that much simpler for people to understand.
Well,
But I
yeah, and
kind
it
of
just wouldn't have broken the whole time travel logic that they'd set up.
yeah
Like
yeah
and I think they probably just brushed it off because like people aren't going to dissect it that hard. But us
yeah.
nerds can't let stuff like that go.
Yeah, why would they think that? I like what Jason Black said in the chat there. And this is the point I made in my video too. The fact that so much ink and print or whatever, or computer screen, pixels are having to be spent on trying to explain this to each other. That is the problem. Then even if enough people could explain it to where finally it did make sense, the fact that the movie didn't do that explaining in itself makes it a storytelling issue for me. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah.
Like I think it should all be
Well,
sort of
it's tough. It's tough because you got to get that no matter what you do with time travel. There's this.
yeah, it's
It's
a tricky
always
thing
it's
to
always
include.
going to be confusing to some degree.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're
yeah,
asking people to.
I guess they could have explained it a little more. It just kind of mostly made sense to me, and maybe it has to do with the fact that I've like dissected time travel movies before. Like I did a whole video back in the day of how I thought Flash season 1 should have ended
Oh, cool. I have to look that up.
with time travel, and
Yeah.
I dissected how I thought they constructed time travel and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so
No, it's
that maybe I'm inserting too much of my own logic into it or something, but I don't know. It didn't bother me as much as a lot of people.
well, no, it's fascinating. I think from a storytelling perspective, I think about okay, this is something new. This is something that doesn't really exist. This idea of time travel, at least as far as we know now, So they have to create, their set of rules behind it and all of that, and they have to, that's the storyteller's job then to tell the audience what the rules are of this new thing that they're introducing. But is that one of the Star Wars creators I'm fond of quoting, and I can't remember his name, but said that when you've got a premise like this, when you've got a science fiction sort of setting, and you're introducing a new premise like that, you can only ask people to believe one new thing per story.
Hmm.
So I think that's really where the problems enter when you've got this new idea of time travel, and it's going to be a different idea of time travel than what we've seen in a lot of the other popular movies. That's okay. That's okay.
Mhm.
Explain that, but then stop introducing these new little angles to it. And then, oh, and one more thing. Now, when a person leaves too, that's also a divergent timeline. And oh, now we can go in the
Mhm.
past and get anything we might have lost and bring it back, and that doesn't hurt the past timeline. It was just one thing on top of the other that gets it to be too precarious, I think, from a
Mhm.
storytelling perspective.
Well, maybe I don't know. Do you think they should have just had a bigger exposition dump to explain it all at once instead of? It seems like they tried to spread out the explanation
Yeah, to be honest,
throughout the film, and it's I don't know. Maybe that made it a little muddy.
I really think that now a lot of people might not agree with me, but I really think this film would have worked better had it been a two-parter. I know people don't want to hear that because they had to wait so long between Infinity War and this one, but I just think that it tried to cram way too much into one 3 hour film
Hmm.
uh, for a good story, character developments, and all that stuff, and expositions and all of that. I think it could have used a two-parter.
Yeah, maybe. Where would you split it
Um,
after all the or in the just like right in the middle and be like to be continued or
I'm trying to think where exactly I'd split it. Maybe it depends on how much time you want to spend developing like what happens to the Hulk and Hawkeye Ronin kind of thing. I would maybe have the end right before they're about to go back in time to get the stones, or either right when they come back with them or something. I don't know. Maybe
Hmm.
right before they go. Haven't really given that a lot of thought. I have to think about that more.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's tough because it's a lot of stuff to do and
Yeah.
trying to do it all in one movie. But let me see here. Time travel. But so yeah, I mean, I think
I
that
mean,
was the biggest loophole for me was the Captain America thing, and I kind of dismissed it because like, oh, they just wanted that sentimental moment or whatever.
mhm,
But you know,
yeah.
it's kind of too bad that they couldn't be more consistent.
Yeah, that didn't seem like a thing that his character would have done with his progression of what we've known from him so far.
Would have
Yeah.
chosen. You don't think he would have chosen to stay back?
No, because he knew that he wasn't there and that Peggy went on and married somebody else as far as he knows.
Mhm.
And his whole arc ever since he came to the present has been about realizing that the past is the past and he needs to live in the present and stop living in the past, stop pining away for it. And that was what Ultron, when
Mhm.
Scarlet Witch messed with his mind, that was what she was tempting him with. That was like the thing to tempt him with that he shouldn't go and do. And at the end of
Mhm.
this movie, he's like, I'm gonna do it.
Ah, the heck with it.
And it was just like, yeah, no. Like I liked it when I first saw it because it was kind of heartwarming, but then I got to thinking
Mhm.
about it from a character progression and thought, it didn't work. I didn't like it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I suppose I guess the reasons I kind of accepted it was well, one because I knew that maybe they just were trying to retire the character because of contracts
yeah, sure.
and things like that, so they had to come up with something. And the other thing that I was like okay with is like, well, let him get the girl at the end, like this this poor like lonely guy that's only ever like kissed a girl like
Mhm.
twice his whole life. He Black Widow gave him like a fake kiss during
Yeah,
Winter Soldier, and then he got to kiss uh,
Sharon.
Sharon Carter in Civil War, and we don't know if he got any action after Civil War when they were in hiding, but
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
I'd have much
is it?
rather seen him pass off the shield to
Mhm.
Bucky, not to Sam Wilson, but to say I'm going to try out what Tony said. He's inspired by Tony's sacrifice, and he wants to try retiring and living a life with Sharon Carter. That way he could come back when he was needed occasionally if you ever wanted to have him back, but he didn't have to either. He could be
Mhm.
an advisory role or something, or I don't know. I'd rather have seen that. I know he wanted out of the film and just, I know they wanted him out. I know Chris Evans probably wanted out. So I'm fine with that. I just felt like it. Yeah. Like
Mhm.
just something better.
What would you have thought if they just didn't even well, no, that probably wouldn't have been good if he just never came back and we didn't know what happened to him.
Yeah, that's something he wouldn't do either. And plus, now that he's back, where does Old Cap go? Old Cap doesn't die on the bench. Is Old Cap still here in the present with us, or do they decide to send Old Cap back extra time again? I
He
didn't think
just
they had
goes
enough.
back he just goes back to the retirement home, I guess, right?
Yeah, like what's going on with that now? Shh, don't ask questions. Just enjoy it.
Shh, quiet. Yeah, old Cap. I don't know. But as far as the Shield goes, uh, yeah, it was. I don't know. I don't know if I care either way because I don't like the idea of a mantle. I like Winter Soldier being Winter Soldier and Falcon being Falcon.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have to
Um,
pass off the shield. He could have just said, "You two
I mean, I
go
guess
and continue my legacy."
I guess if one of those characters were just to wield the shield, as a weapon, it would fit better with Winter Soldier because Falcon's got to fly around all the time
Mhm.
holding a shield. Doesn't really make much sense,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was it's just one of those things that you just have to be like, okay, well, they did it in the comics or whatever.
Well, it was an interesting arc in the comics where you had Bucky taking up the shield and realize it was kind of a redemptive arc for him, and that was a big
Mhm.
deal. And I don't think the MCU wants to spend that much time investing in another straight white character, as a main
Well,
player
they've announced a a Bucky and Falcon series,
series.
right?
Yeah, yeah, on Disney
So
Plus.
I'm assuming all these series are going to be prequels because uh, if it's a Bucky Falcon, well, that couldn't be a sequel because they would have been together
Yeah.
until now. So
Mhm.
is he going to be Cap in their series?
That's what I'm assuming. Yeah.
Oh. Is it going to be called Captain America and Winter Soldier? Or are they still going to call him Falcon?
Well, if they do it like they did in the comics, it's going to be all about how America's racist and won't accept a black Captain America, and this
Oh,
this is Trump's America. There you go. Yeah,
I hope not.
I know.
Um, but I was commenting on that on Twitter with someone who was talking, or no, it was on YouTube. He was just talking about how oh, if diversity's so good, why did they need to force it? And I was just commenting. I was like, well, you don't need to force diversity. What they need to force is their brand of diversity,
Exactly. Yeah.
and their brand of diversity. They don't like individualistic characters who are who are black or women
Hmm.
or whatever minority group that they want to go. They don't like them when they're individualistic. They
Yeah.
want they want they want the black characters have to always be confronting racism
Hmm.
and always be confronted by their race, and
Token stand-ins. Yeah.
women have to always be addressing sexism,
Yep.
um, because that's how their brains work. Like they read racism and sexism to everything, and so they're in their minds, their lives are continuously they're continuously being confronted with these things because they kind of choose to in their own minds. And
Yeah.
so when they see individualistic characters, like like if you look at Morgan Freeman or Denzel Washington or Will Smith, like they don't play black characters, they just play they
Characters.
play characters,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
they're just individuals, and they're not constantly sometimes race falls into their stories and stuff, but usually it's just that they're like Morgan Freeman's the president or he's God or like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
um and so they don't like that because they think that that's denying the reality of their whatever their subjective truth or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
That's like.
they feel the need to have characters that are always about their identity intersection.
Mhm.
So if it's a gay character, they always have to be addressing the fact that they're gay. If it's a woman, they always have to be confronting sexism and
Yep.
pig-headed men. If it's a black guy, he's always got to be rolling his eyes at the insensitive white people or whatever. So
Mhm. Yeah. Jason Black just brought up the cringeworthy A-Force scene.
oh.
What'd you think of that? We've got
Okay,
this.
so here's my take on it. Okay, because I did cringe watching it,
Mhm.
but the sad thing is, if that scene was in the '90s, like it would have just been fun, and it's kind of sad that that's the world that we're in, because gender war stuff used to be fun.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
boys versus girls and girl power and boy power and all that stuff used to be fun.
Hmm. Now it's all
I don't.
about white man bad.
Yeah, now it's like about representation and
Yeah.
finally women get to do this or whatever. Um, and so it it's sad. So I have to like force myself to think like, okay, I would enjoy this back in the day. So I have to try to put my brain in that mode, and then I can kind of enjoy it as like a fun girl power moment or whatever.
Yeah, you
But
can
like,
do that. I look at it in the way of, from my lens is always have to look at it in the cultural moment, looking at it as cultural mythology. So that's different. So we have just different ways of looking
yeah,
at it.
well, it's and it's sad that I have to do that, but it's like, you ever? I mean, do you remember that old commercial with Michael Jordan and Mia Hamm? Do you
I
know
don't think so.
Mia Hamm's like the famous soccer player on the women's soccer
Oh,
team?
anything you can do, I can do better. That one.
Yeah, anything you
Yeah,
can
that
do,
was
I can do
funny.
better.
Yeah,
And they go back and forth, and she beats him at soccer, and he beats her at basketball, and
yeah,
they're
yeah,
doing different sports. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it used to be fun, gender war
yeah,
stuff. You used to have like Family Feud episodes that was boys versus girls,
yeah,
uh, and now they've sucked all the fun out of it, you know.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, that's a good point.
So it's just funny because that scene, and a lot of, I think a lot of normies who are still kind of who aren't into the culture war stuff can still enjoy it on that level. I think
Hmm. Yeah.
I kind of kind of mourn for myself that I can't, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's permeating culture more and more. I mean, I used to think it was just I just experienced it so much because I was in the academic world, but no, it's definitely trickled out of the academic world and it's everywhere now.
Yeah. Well, and the other the other thing that was silly about that scene, uh, is the whole notion that Captain Marvel would need any kind of support.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, they really shot themselves in the foot by making her so powerful.
because it was, yeah, it was just, it didn't make sense. Like, Spider-Man's like, how are you gonna expect to get through all that? And I was like, did you just see what she did to the ship? You know,
Yeah,
like,
she does that to the ship. She takes out his entire fleet in a snap, and he headbutts her, and she's out for the count.
uh,
Where's the logic here?
well, no, he didn't. He couldn't even headbutt her. That was the thing. He had to punch her with the power gem
Yeah, that's right. That's
to
right.
knock
That's
her
right.
out.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
how powerful. That's how I was arguing this with people. Like, she's like, if you think about it, like, I don't know, MCU Thanos versus comic book Thanos. I mean, I guess there's different power levels there, but technically Thanos could probably choke slam Superman. You know, like, if we're going like Thanos is the Marvel dark side. You know, dark side can,
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
you know,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thanos could I mean,
A
MCU
physical
Thanos might
strength
be,
match. Yeah, if it's like a dark side. Yeah.
like, he picked up and body slammed the Hulk. He could probably do the same sort of stuff to Superman. Yet he can't even headbutt uh Captain Marvel. He tries to, and she has like a little force field of
Yeah.
protection,
And I've
and
heard
it
people say, yeah. And I've
does
heard people
nothing to
say,
her. So
well, her power is from the testers. One of the Infinity Stones. Like, yeah, and he's wielding all five. So logic. Come on.
yeah. Well, I mean, even the fact, I mean, so was Scarlet Witch's power was from
Yeah, exactly.
one of the Infinity Stones as well. I mean, it's not a good excuse. Like, oh, she got her power from the Infinity Stone, so she can be like godlike
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but yeah, that whole moment didn't make any sense. Peter Parker's like, oh, how are you gonna get through all that? And I was like, are you kidding? Like, it's gonna be easy for her to get through all that. But then then all of a sudden they're like, she has help, blah blah blah, and they all run in. I'm like,
Good thing
she
Wasp
doesn't
is there
need
to help her.
she doesn't need your help. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And then finally, but that was one of the most okay, let's talk about Captain Marvel a little bit, because that was one of them. It's funny that one of the most satisfying moments of the movie was when she got punched out.
Exactly.
um because her, and the Russos, it's obvious to me that they decidedly barely had her in this
Mhm.
because her very presence threatened to destroy the entire movie. Because as soon as she shows up, the stakes are gone, and you're just like, okay, well, she's either going to fix all this or nothing, or it just won't make any sense,
Yeah.
based on how they've set her up.
Yeah.
Um, so, and going into this movie, that was my biggest qualm, was how much she was going to be in it.
Mhm.
Like, that was the one, pretty much the one thing I was worried about.
I had a
With this,
problem with her being the one to save Tony and Nebula. Because if you
it
think
didn't make
about,
any sense. Why
yeah,
would she just happen upon them?
yeah, that's random. And plus, if you think about this, at the end of Infinity War, everybody's thinking, "Wow, man, how is Iron Man? How is he going to get back to Earth? How is he in? Wow, that's crazy. How is that going to happen?" And then MCU, this is the problem with the MCU storytelling now, with everything between Infinity War up to Endgame. It feels like, I've said this before, it feels like kids on a playground playing pretend, and they're playing
Mhm.
this imaginary game, and you don't really have to worry about structure or anything when you're just playing pretend with friends, because then something can happen, like, and this person kills you. You're like, well, wait, let's pretend that I always had a gun in my back pocket, and then I used that, and let's pretend. That's what it feels like, because at the end of Infinity War, the MCU's like, wait, guys, let's pretend that another hero had come from the 90s and was super powerful and out there in space. So now in Endgame, she can just come and take him home real quick. And
Okay,
it
but no, now let's pretend. That's how my kids do things. They're just like, okay,
yeah, yeah.
now pretend, and I always tell them, well, you don't have to announce let's pretend. Just do it. Just do what you want to pretend. But they always announce, they're like, okay, now let's pretend this. It's funny,
And
but yeah,
that's
the
the child's mind developing its storytelling capabilities, and that's good for children, but not so much
uh,
for people writing a multi-million-dollar freaking movie.
yeah. Well, and I feel bad for the Russos that got strapped with this character at the
Mhm.
last second, but
Yeah, yeah.
the thing is, with her rescuing Tony, that's another instance of like, okay, well, obviously they're just trying to kill two birds with one stone. They want to bring Tony back and have Captain Marvel show up at the same time, so they don't have to devote like two different scenes to like Tony showing up and then Captain Marvel showing up,
Mhm.
and so I got that. That's what they're doing for convenience sake, but it does come across lazy because it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense
And I'd
why
heard,
she would find them.
yeah.
And if you're gonna just have a quick like Deus Ex Machina, the one that makes sense is Kraglin. I thought,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. That's
because
a good one.
Kraglin would have actually been able, he would have had a logical way of maybe tracking that ship and finding
Yeah.
it, and a reason to want to find it.
I didn't
And
even
so
think about that. That is,
him just him just showing up in another ship and rescuing them, and then having Tony say, take me to Earth or whatever.
yeah, that is perfect. I like that. Yeah. I was thinking, I'd heard the rumor that it was going to be Pepper who was going to somehow, be in some grab a hold of some of his armor or whatever, prototypes
uh
or whatever, and find a way to track his current armor or
I think
something like that.
as because of what they named the armor. Her
Yeah.
armor was called like the rescue armor or something
Yeah.
weird like that, and so people came up with all these theories of like, oh, what's she gonna rescue?
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I love the Kraglin idea. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean,
And he knows the way to Earth. He knows the way to Terran, so he would
they
have
know
been
about
able to take him
Terra.
back. Yeah.
They've been there before. They picked up Peter.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Um, So yeah, Kraglin, and then the other. So because I was thinking about this because I was like, okay, how can we write Captain Marvel out of this movie completely? And that was the first thing. Just how Kraglin bring Tony back, so then you don't need her at the beginning. And then the other thing she accomplished was destroying the ship.
Mhm.
Those are the two things she did, right?
Mhm.
With that, so you just have to replace those things, and you don't need her in the movie at all. But
Yeah. Well, I thought with
the other, the destruction of the ship, I was thinking, and I don't know if this would make a ton of sense based on how much time it would Nick Fury would have, but I thought a fun thing, and I actually thought this might have been what was happening when, because when Thanos' ship redirects its guns and is shooting out into the clouds,
Uh
and you don't see what's coming yet. My mind was like, oh, it's the helicarrier.
huh. Nice.
And
Yeah.
so, but then it turned out it was Captain Marvel, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I know. Everybody's like,
but
oh, yeah.
but yeah. So I was thinking, so that would have been cool. Have like Nick Fury and Maria Hill show up with the helicarrier, and then I guess the firepower of the helicarrier arguably wouldn't match up to Thanos's, but I figured, oh, they could maybe kamikaze it into
Hmm.
the ship or something, like.
Yeah.
And that I
Well,
don't know, that would have been a satisfying return of Nick Fury, like, because he only shows up at the funeral at the end, right?
yeah. 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 And if they, whatever, well, I'm glad they don't at this point, but if they had allowed more crossover between the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, that the Shield has just gotten back from space and dealt with some time travel on their own. So I mean, it would have been a perfect clue in for them to come back with some space tech and hit the Shields. That would have been fine. But like I said, now I'm glad that they don't really tie in much, so I can try to enjoy the new season still.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Marvel TV shows. Like, I got into Agents of Shield, right, with the events that they had that tied into Civil War,
Yeah.
where Hydra was infiltrated.
Oh, you mean
So I
Winter Soldier?
started. I never even watched like the first season or whatever. I just like jumped in
Oh, okay.
right there because that's where people said like, "Oh, it starts to get good around here."
I'm
So
kind of the. Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, so I started watching there, and I got into it, and I was enjoying it, and I think I went clear to like, uh, I think I stopped watching when what's her name, Daisy,
Hmm.
when she became like Quake, and she was out on the streets rescuing people or something. I don't know. I kind of lost interest after a while, and then the Netflix shows, uh, Daredevil season 1 and 2 were great. Uh, the other Jessica Jones is okay, not great, especially the end wasn't that great. And Luke Cage was kind of boring, but it was passable. And then Iron Fist was pretty bad, but I was kind of just biding my time. I was excited for what they would do with Defenders,
Hmm. And they kind of
and then
petered that out too.
Defenders was just like boring. Like I don't even remember what happens in Defenders. Like
Yeah.
I just remember thinking this is boring, and so I was done with Netflix Marvel after that.
It's interesting with Agents of Shield. I'm usually the only person in any circle I talk to that likes the show, which I just grates on my nerves. But there's a huge Agents of Shield fandom out there. I mean, huge. It's
Uh,
online, and it's a major part of why the show continues to be renewed season after season.
and they're
But
always demanding that they cross over with the movies. Those
yeah,
Agent Shield fans.
but now I'm hoping they don't. But the interesting thing is though that anytime you go into a forum with like some of the hardcore Agents of Shield fans, there's
Hmm.
not really a lot of talk about the MCU. They're fans of it almost as a separate thing. I mean, not they
Mm.
wouldn't come out and say that all the time. I mean, first when you talk to the individual people or fans of Agents of Shield, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I love the MCU" or whatever. But the way it's kind of taken on a life of its own. Which even though
Yeah.
it's in the universe, it doesn't really feel like it's in the universe.
Well, now that there's a multiverse, maybe they'll just say, "Oh, it was always from a different
Yeah, and
universe."
at the last end of the last season, they've even come back in time into a different sort of timeline themselves, or altered the timeline. So yeah, you could say that they're just in an alternate universe now. I mean,
Hmm.
they're going to be in space this entire season anyway, pretty much. So yeah. Yeah.
So, well, let's see. I don't want to get it too much into Marvel TV because that's not my
You got me
thing.
going on Agents of Shield. Sorry.
Gotta get you off Agents of Shield.
No one ever talks to me about it. Damn fan man and Big Al like Star Trek Orville.
They like Orville. Uh, I don't. Yeah, I'm not a big TV guy in general. I think, but yeah. So okay. So what? How much time have we been going?
I haven't even kept track.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, it's almost one here where I am.
One. Oh, we've been going a little over an hour. So let's just. I also just wanted to talk about the MCU in general.
Oh yeah.
and kind of the impact it's had. Um, and you know, in all sorts of ways. I mean, in movies and in culture and
Mhm.
all kinds of things. But
Yeah.
so okay, I have my thing that I think was well a couple things that I think is the most uh like a differentiator about the MCU that's made it stand out. But what's your take? What do you think? What made the MCU so successful? And
Well, I think it's been really epic in a lot of ways. I mean, it's been groundbreaking for storytelling, for cinematic storytelling. It truly did pioneer. It pioneered. It's not that there had never been a true comic book movie to the comic books before. There had been more or less truth, but for the most part, when if Hollywood made a film out of a comic book, they were really striving more towards a general audience. They really weren't targeting comic book audiences, and the MCU really uh, they're of course they wanted to be general audiences, but they did they went and told you the story straight from Iron Man and straight from Captain America and so forth. But they brought these sideline characters into the general household names, so they really uh, pioneered that, really being true to the comics, for as long as they were true to the comics. And then they pioneered this idea of a shared cinematic universe that really how to do it well for as long as they did it well. They really pioneered that, showed it could work. They had some flubs here, there, whatever, but no, they really showed that this could be a thing and this could work. And so many people just pretend that it can't happen. Like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, well, that's just really hard to do. So you shouldn't even try. But the MCU showed that it could be done. And
mhm,
I hope that those lessons, even now that I truly believe the MCU is going to kind of peter on out from this point, I truly believe that those lessons hold, because I would like to see some more shared cinematic universes. I don't want that to be the thing all the time, everywhere
mhm,
now. But, like I've talked a lot about how Kathleen Kennedy with the Star Wars, as an executive producer, she just didn't know what she just started, okay, hiring these people to make that movie and these people to make a sequel over here and these people over here. No. Kevin Feige showed that as the executive producer for a shared cinematic universe, you have to be hands on with the story. You can't be an
mhm.
administrator, So the MCU pioneered a lot with that, and I hope those lessons carry over for future films. I'd like to see Western cinematic universes, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll ever get a Western comeback or whatever. But yeah, the thing I think some of the thing well, and it's funny to see, especially younger people who were like kids when the MCU started, and now they're like teens and early 20s or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, they weren't really aware of like um, people's thoughts on those movies, those Phase One movies, and so they kind of don't really get how big a deal it was.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just like happened to them, and they don't really remember how um, um, how risky the whole thing was. I remember like every single time, like I remember Thor when that was coming out. Like even me, like a big comics fan, I was like, "This isn't gonna work. This is gonna like, how are they gonna make this work? This is gonna be the one that's like stupid or whatever." Like I was convinced. I was like, the only way you could do a Thor movie is like if set it in a different time period or something like. And then they successfully did a Thor movie,
yeah.
and I really liked the first Thor movie.
I did too.
I think a lot of people were just kinda meh about it because it was kind of a new thing, and it was kind
Mhm.
of a bizarre thing for a lot of people, but the fact that, uh, people just kind of mostly enjoyed it, like, even if they weren't super excited about it,
Yeah,
that's like a feat in and of itself, and then,
yeah.
of course, an Avengers, team-up movie,
That was
that
the
was like
groundbreaking. Yeah.
everyone was li everyone was excited for it, but everyone was like
It'll
no one
never
thought like,
work.
"Is this gonna work?" Like,
Yeah.
all these, like, lead characters from other films
Mhm.
coming together because, there's been spin-off movies before
Yeah.
and universes in that regard, like sequels and,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
Star Trek, Star Trek Next Generation, stuff like that, but,
Yeah.
there've never been, like, 4 separate movie franchises who weren't really connected very much in that first phase, except for with like a few after credit scenes that mostly no one watched. So like most normal people didn't think of them as like a connected universe. So to all of a sudden put them all together in the same scene,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it was a big
nobody,
deal.
yeah, nobody thought like, how is this even going to work? This is, but but I think um, what really made it stand out and iconic is their focus on character. Um, because if you look at um, all their movies, you know, plot wise, excuse me, they've gotten a lot of flack for being kind of, formulaic or whatever. Oh, it's just standard superhero movie. And, some of the movies like Iron Man 2 or Thor the Dark World, like people weren't super impressed with the, you know, the movies in general or the plots of those movies. But the thing is, like, because they focused on developing characters that you love and that you're really interested in, you can sit through like a, a meh plot because you're invested in the character.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas um, the DC cinematic universe, we'll use that as an example,
yeah.
they botched their characters. And
Mhm.
so it doesn't matter how great of a twist or great of a plot or anything that you can come up with later on. You don't care because you don't care about seeing these characters continue onward.
Yeah. It's kind of like
I mean,
watching I was gonna say it's kind of like watching a good series because they did that. They brought that to the films where if you love, like I loved SG1, I love those characters, love spending time with them. So even if one of the episodes of the season was a bit of a dud, I'm still gonna sit in that seat and watch it because I love spending time with these characters. So yeah, you're right.
mhm. Well, that's the same problem with Star Wars is they set up the potential for some interesting characters in The Force Awakens,
Yeah,
but they never really, I mean, they were still just kind of potential. Like you were kind of interested in where they would what would become of them or whatever.
yeah,
But then The Last Jedi just killed every single character, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, Finn became a nothing character.
Hmm.
Uh, Ray just doubled down on being a nothing character who just is super powerful and still has no backstory
Yep.
and nothing, no interesting, pathos or anything about her.
Hmm.
Snoke became a nothing villain.
Hmm.
Even in the first one, he was, mysterious and we wondered what he was going to be. Well,
Yeah,
he's nothing.
yeah.
Kylo Ren just became it. He was just even more of a baby.
Mopey emo boy.
Uh, yeah, and then the new characters they introduced were nothing, and so and that was the other problem with a lot of people like Rogue One, but because I think generally it's a fun, exciting movie, but that was my problem with Rogue One is that the characters were mostly nothing characters. The
Hmm.
only ones that were really that interesting were K2 was kind of fun, the
Hmm.
droid, and the blind guy was kind of fun.
Just watch the Darth
But
Vader scene and you're good.
yeah, yeah, and the Darth Vader scene was cool. But I think that's the one thing that Marvel has done consistently, even when they've had kind of standard fare as far as superhero stories go or movies go or whatever.
Mhm.
But all the characters from Tony Stark to Doctor Strange. Well, and we'll say the one exception is probably Captain Marvel, but
Yeah.
uh, but I haven't even seen that movie yet, so I'm not really counting her in any of this.
Yeah.
Um, but the consistency with focusing on the characters above anything else. And then, well, and the other thing that was nice is that okay, so in this age of like culture war and movies, we talk a lot about divided fandoms
Mm.
and new remakes, trying to subvert things or change things up, and you know, enraging old fans, and then the new fans say, "Oh, it's not for you," and blah blah blah. All this division happening. That was the nice thing about the MCU, is that it was able to be true enough to the spirit of the source material and the comic books
Hmm.
to please comic book fans. I mean, it's not a one for one translation of the comics, but I think they focused on the right things, and they were true to the right aspects of the comics that pretty consistently. There's a few. I've met a few of the hardcore, like, if it's not exactly like the comics, then it sucks people,
Yeah.
but pretty consistently, almost all comic fans are happy with the MCU.
That's an interesting point too, though, because the MCU, they drew their inspiration from the comics, like you're saying, but they did not draw their inspiration from the contemporary comics that were happening at that time. They drew their inspiration from Marvel comics about anywhere from 10 to 20 years ago, which was really the iconic versions of the characters that people knew and loved. And that's really why it worked. That's the mistake that DC made when they tried to draw inspiration from DC pretty much currently at that time. The New 52
Mhm.
stuff, that's not what resonated and what people really think of when they think of those characters. So that's why, one of the reasons why it didn't work. Marvel did that, and that's one of the golden pieces of Marvel. That's why it works so well. Now they're fast forwarding and they're just turning such an abrupt page, and now they're going to draw all their inspiration from the current, all new, all different Marvel comics. And that's
Mhm.
the comics that everybody's pretty much agreed upon really suck. That's the downfall of Marvel comics. Anybody will pretty much admit
Uh,
that, and that's where they're going to pull all their inspiration now from all their characters and so forth.
yeah, we'll see. I wonder how much they're gonna dive into that, and how quickly, but yeah, I mean, I even think, like, because I'm no expert on, like, every single Thor story, or, I mean, because if you think about it, I was always an X-Men guy and a
Hmm.
Spider-Man guy, and those are the two franchises that Marvel didn't have access to.
Yeah.
So really, Tony Stark was not that popular before the
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah. Exactly.
and Thor was not that popular. Hulk was kind of popular because of the old TV series,
Hmm.
and Captain America was somewhat iconic because of what he symbolized or
Yeah.
whatever.
But no one
But he
really knew much
wasn't.
about his character.
Yeah, nobody knew about his history, and
Yeah.
Steve Rogers as a guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, so where was I going with that? uh, but yeah, so they were able to it's interesting. They were able to make these lesser known characters, or kind of they're less popular characters, because really Spider-Man and the X-Men were always their most popular, um, or at least since the 80s and 90s
Yeah.
and
And
stuff.
now it's almost kind of turned around because of how
Uh,
Fox dropped the ball with the X Men. So now much more people know who Iron Man is than Wolverine. Even that's kind of shocking.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I guess we'll see where things go. I mean, if we think about it, if we're going to talk about the future, right now there's Guardians 3,
Hmm.
Spider-Man Far From Home, Black Widow is still on track, I think. And then they're also trying to make a Shang-Chi movie, Master of Kung Fu.
Oh yeah, yeah, I heard about that.
Those are the only ones that's solid.
Eternals too. They're going to do an Eternals some
Oh,
point.
Eternals. Oh, that's the one I'm worried about, because I think, is that one of those ones they're trying to find, like, a woke black woman to direct it or something like that?
I don't know. I know that DC, they got the A Wrinkle in Time director to
Yeah,
supposedly
to
he's going to do their
New
Apocalypse,
Gods.
New Gods. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. And I think that I think I read something, like, or they're trying to get a girl or somebody to direct. So I'm worried about that one being a woke movie too, or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Uh, Shang-Chi, uh, it's like whatever. Like, he's kind of one of those other obscure
hmm,
characters,
yeah,
and so it's like, okay, well, they did Guardians of the Galaxy, and they made that into something huge. Maybe they can make Shang-Chi, the next Bruce Lee or whatever. But
But it'll be all
uh,
about the challenges for Asian Americans.
well, so now here's my theory. I have some hope for Shang-Chi because the Asian audience, China, does not like culture war stuff.
That's true. They don't like the SJW stuff. Yeah, you're right.
So
It's true.
my theory is that one will be less woke because they want to market to China.
Maybe. Yeah.
Uh, because they want that China money, and it's funny. Well, and I don't know when I realized it might have been during like a Plinkett review. I think it was during a Plinkett review of The Force Awakens when I realized, oh, holy cow, the reason they didn't have Finn and Rey hook up in The Force Awakens was because they didn't think Chinese people would like a black man as the romantic lead with Rey.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
They were worried about offending Chinese people. And so that's why they didn't have them. That's why he got friend zoned. And then if you think about who they paired him up with in The Last Jedi,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
a Chinese girl,
Yep.
and he's like, "No, please accept Finn. Look, this Chinese girl really likes him."
Yeah. Is she Chinese or is she? I didn't know what. I know she's Asian of some
Well,
sort.
no, she's not. She's not Chinese.
Yeah.
Forget where she's.
I'm not sure.
I think she might be American. No, she had. I don't know.
Like what kind of American though? It was like Korean. I don't know.
Country?
Vietnamese, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be that. I'm not sure. But that's another example of like the the woke representation. Like the fact that they had a yin yang, the in Star Wars, what were they? The Tico sisters.
Oh yeah.
The two Asian girls have the little amulets that interlock, and it's a yin yang. Like, okay, that's a little on the nose. Like, oh, they're Asian. It's a yin yang. But yeah, so that's the hope for Shang-Chi is maybe the Chinese will save it.
That's interesting.
Then Black Widow, I was excited for it, but less so now that it's probably going to be a prequel, and I don't really care for more prequels. It's rare. I think it's rare that you can get like a really good prequel that really stands out. Because it's it's one of those things. It's like what happens to her.
Yeah. They'll give Ant-Man and Wasp. They'll receive a third film, which I'm sure will be all about passing off the mantle to his daughter.
I think they'll pass it up. What? You think they'll age her up that much?
Well, they did age her up in this film a little bit, but see, that happened in the comics. Like even as a teenager, she got her.
You think they'll have teenage Ant Girl? What's her name in the comics?
I forgot her name in the comics. She goes by something different.
I guess as soon as they start establishing like teenage girl characters, it's
yeah. And I'm sure they'll give Doctor Strange. Are they going to give Doctor Strange? I can't imagine them not giving any character a trilogy who had a single film.
I don't know. There's no announcement. Maybe they'll just reserve him for Avengers movies, or
maybe. Yeah, who knows?
Well, they're definitely going to do Black Panther too.
That's that's happening.
The mega hit that was.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can keep that one interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go back and forth on the Black. I mean, I enjoy the Black Panther movie.
Yeah, I like the movie.
It's not as much as some people, or I guess as much as the hype.
Yeah, it was way over hype, but I thought it was a decent movie regardless. Yeah.
And I think when I rewatch, it's one of those movies that like I tend to nitpick as I think about it, but then I rewatch it and I'm like, oh no, it's not as bad as I remembered. It's like, it's actually pretty good. Like I don't know why I was nitpicking that stuff or whatever. But I think the one thing with it is that Black Panther, he kind of gets overshadowed by all the other supporting characters and the villain,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
which is unfortunate because we haven't had a bunch of them yet.
mhm,
He was cool in Civil War.
yeah. I
Uh,
I thought that the I thought he had a good journey in that movie and a good arc, but people would rather focus on Okoye or Shuri or what's his name, the villain, and the fact that people
mm,
were saying, "Man, Killmonger, he's kind of right. He's kind of like the hero of the movie." I was like, "Oh my gosh." You idiots. This is the perfect example of agenda over storytelling. The story's telling you that's not right. The villain says we need to play into race rage and race conflict. We need to bring out more of that. And
mm.
T'Challa is saying, no, we're all one tribe. We're all one tribe, humanity. That's what we need to be focusing on, you know. And people were like, yeah, man, Killmonger was right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, I was watching it with the commentary, and the director Coogler, he was saying their idea was that Black Panther would learn a lesson from the villain,
Yeah.
right? Not that the villain was right necessarily, but that the villain kind of taught Black Panther something, like like, oh,
The impo-
I guess we have kind of dropped the ball.
mhm.
We haven't been helping the world out or whatever.
Yeah, too isolated. Yeah.
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 So I mean, yeah, Killmonger's not the hero or whatever, and
Yeah.
he's not right. He's just his presence kind of opened
He's an
T'Challa's
appropriate
eyes.
challenge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, hopefully, I don't know. I'm not gonna go totally pessimistic yet. I
Yeah.
think uh, we'll see with Far From Home.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about that. What do you think about the trailers for Far From Home?
Uh, I really liked Homecoming. I know some people didn't. I loved Homecoming, and when I
Hmm.
first saw the trailer, before seeing Endgame, when I saw the first trailer for Far From Home, I thought perfect. That's the next evolution in the character. Get him far from home, have him deal with the grandfather, quote unquote, character more than just a father figure, and go from Iron Man to Fury. I thought this was great. Now everything that happened in Endgame, I'm just not as invested, and I don't trust it not to go woke even more with Michelle slash MJ. Um,
Mm.
I don't like trying to make her MJ. I don't. Now they're going to introduce the multiverse. It's just like whoa, 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 whoa. Let's slow down, guys. Let's slow down. you know, we
Yeah.
had one good story with him. Let's just progress his character a little bit before we blow up the universe with him.
Well, yeah, that was I was thinking that too. I was like, I didn't like that they were doubling down with making her MJ.
Yeah, yeah. That's not.
Like it was it was that one line at the end of the last movie. Like they could just go back to calling her Michelle in this
Yeah,
movie or whatever.
yeah,
Uh, but she's just MJ now or whatever.
yeah. She's
Um,
not MJ. That is not Mary Jane Watson.
well, yeah, I mean it's a completely different character. It's like they threw in the name MJ as like some sort of a Easter egg or something,
Yeah,
like, and so
yeah.
basically now uh this version of Spider-Man will never have Mary Jane in it because it's been relegated to an Easter egg.
I know that's such a bummer because I really like Tom Holland Spider Man.
Um, but yeah, that was a little disappointing that they're doubling down on that. And what was the other thing I noticed? Um,
It's kind of hard for me to
oh,
look at the
the
Fury.
other thing is it's related to the MJ thing. I didn't like how she knew that he was. Oh, it's kind of
Yeah,
obvious that you're Spider. It's like this. It's like this whole thing. Like
yeah,
it's as if they need the girl to be like really observant and smart and
mhm,
intelligent enough to figure it out. Like they did the same thing with Lois in Man
yeah,
of Steel or whatever.
yeah.
Like as if them not knowing undermines their intelligence as a
Exactly.
person or whatever. Like
Yeah,
it's like right, and it's not that it's revealed to them in some way. It's that they always have to figure it out on their own. And
yeah,
I think that's why it's because they want the girl to look super smart or whatever.
yeah. They're terrified about that. Yeah, you're right.
So that's the thing, and so it just becomes another person that knows. So it's like, oh, Aunt May knows, and his friend knows, and
Mhm.
Vulture knows, and MJ knows, and everybody,
Yeah,
Nick Fury knows. Like every other character in the movie knows his
yeah,
secret
yeah.
identity.
Ned knows.
So
Yeah,
it almost becomes pointless.
Yeah. And plus,
Anymore.
I can't look at Nick Fury anymore with any kind of respect after the cat
Oh, the
backstory.
cast. Oh, I see. I still haven't watched that movie.
Oh, well, plus
So maybe
the way he was in that movie too, he was just sort of Captain Marvel's
was
bumbling sidekick, and I was
he
like,
was a
"Yep,
timid
yeah,
Nick Fury.
yeah," and I like that. Nope.
Yeah, I've heard that. So I
Mhm.
mean, I think I'll rent it when it comes out on DVD. But I don't know. Maybe should I just not even watch it?
I mean, it's up to you if you want to be able to talk to have the cultural discussion of it. If you're looking for a
Uh,
movie to enjoy, no, don't watch it at all. It's not going to be anything you enjoy. But if you want to be able to have a cultural discussion about it, then yeah, I mean, you can watch it.
I think I'll have to watch it at least. That might be the one movie that I won't own though
Yeah, yeah,
of the the first 4 phases of the MCU.
yeah. I
We'll
stopped. I
see.
stopped there.
I'll rent it. Maybe I'll buy it if it's like in the bargain bin one day or something.
Mhm. There you go.
But okay, so the other thing about Far From Home, my theory is that they're going to use this rift. My theory is that Mysterio comes from the Venomverse.
I saw you post that on Twitter. That's really fascinating. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. My theory is that, I mean, I guess he could come from another one, but my theory is that they're going to use this hole in the dimensions to send Tom Holland to the Venomverse.
Mm-hmm.
And after this movie, he's done in the MCU.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because I remember those articles came out like a year ago saying Spider-Man may be done after Far From Home. Like I think Eamon Pascal made some comments saying like that you know, alluding, like it wasn't a direct thing, but it kind of alluded or hinted that maybe he was done after the Homecoming sequel.
Yeah, and that would make more sense too. Why Sony did a multiverse Miles Morales film to get people ready for that possibility of Spider-Man's crossing universes and stuff.
Yeah. So it just occurred to me as, oh, he comes from another dimension. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. He comes from the Venomverse. Spider-Man, Homecoming had a double meaning, right? It was the dance,
Mhm.
and it was also Spider-Man coming to the MCU.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. He's coming home to Marvel. Far From Home, when I heard that title, I was like, I wonder if it has a double meaning.
Oh, that is a good point. Yeah.
Meaning that, like, okay, well, not only is he going to, Europe, I doubt it. I doubt that that's it. I think that Far From Home means he's going to be sent to another world.
Huh. I didn't think about that. I have to think about that. That's interesting. That never occurred to me.
So, maybe they'll just do it like the third act takes place in Mysterio's homeworld.
Yeah, maybe.
And then he comes back. I mean, it depends if he's going to stay in the MCU.
Or he could always go over there and like awaken his counterpart in that universe, and then you've got him, the same actor in both universes or something. I don't know.
Well, I've heard some people theorize that some people think that Venom's gonna come to the MCU
Okay.
through this portal. It's the opposite of what I'm saying, but I don't think so. I think more likely Sony wants Spider-Man back, and they're not going to do this forever with Marvel.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it'd be great if they could, but my theory is, Spider-Man's going to the Venomverse.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Maybe.
Sony's gonna. I don't know how they're gonna pull the Vulture over. Also, maybe they'll just say that there's a version of Vulture already over there. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't know his identity yet.
But yeah, because it seems like they're building up to the Sinister. I would love it. I mean, I would love it though if they didn't, and they built up to the Sinister Six in the MCU proper and had a cool Sinister Six movie with Spider-Man. But my theory is that he's going to Sony.
Yeah, maybe, probably.
So we'll see what happens there. Mysterio. Who would you cast for Doc Ock?
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. I'm a bad person to ask about casting on the fly like that. I usually need time to think about it. Big Al's really good at that, but
one of the popular ones that people want is Mark Hamill as Doc Ock.
I think Doc Ock needs to be fat. think that works for his
You
character
like
best.
fat Doc Ock?
Yeah.
Well,
Or at least
Mark Hamill's kind of stout. Like he's short.
that's true. It's true.
He could pull off a little bit of a belly or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I
Well,
haven't thought about
but then you wouldn't like my pick then because he's not fat. But
it.
I thought Jared Harris, and
Who's
you probably
Jared
don't know that he's the guy who played Moriarty in the second Sherlock movie with Robert Downey Jr.
I never saw that. Let me look him up here.
You never saw it? This Game of Shadows?
No, I never saw those movies.
Oh, you never saw either of them?
Good. I thought they were. No,
I thought they were just kind of I never knew they were anything to watch. Are they really good?
Oh, no, I mean, they're fun.
I just never heard many people talk about it. So never thought. I'm looking at it now. Okay, yeah, I can see he definitely has the eyes and the face structure. Yeah, I can see that.
I'm trying to think of but yeah, I don't know if you've recognized him from other movies. And
I think I've seen him in stuff, but I couldn't name anything just yet. But yeah, I've seen him in things.
Well, you'd have to watch. I would recommend you watching them. I don't know if you'd like, the Guy Ritchie take on.
I'll check it. I mean, I do love detective stories, and I like different takes on Sherlock. I'll check it out.
It's kind of got the Guy Ritchie kind of modern touch or style, but it's it's fun, and it came in the wake of Robert Downey Jr. being popular as Iron Man. I'm surprised they haven't made a third one yet. I think they're still saying that they're going to eventually. But
maybe he'll go do that now that he doesn't have to do any more Marvel films.
But yeah, I really enjoy it. They have this little gimmick where before he starts like a fight, he plays through the whole thing in his mind.
Oh, cool!
Like, because he's like a genius, right? So he's like, okay, so if I try this, then I'll do that, and it plays through the whole fight in like slow mo.
Oh, cool!
But it's him mapping it out in his brain.
Yeah, I like that. That's neat.
And then after he's done mapping it all out, they play it in like real time, and then you see it all happen or whatever.
Yeah, cool.
So it's a fun little thing that they use throughout the movies. But it was interesting because Moriarty's also a genius.
Yeah, well, that's how it should be.
So there's when they have a fight, he does it too. So it's like a back and forth of them predicting each other's moves.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. They're fun movies, I think. But
I would give them a chance.
You should watch it, if only to see Jared Harris and see why I think he would make a good Doc Ock.
I will do that, definitely.
All right. I think that was a good conversation.
Yeah, it's getting to be Prof Pizza time.
Pizza time. Maybe some ice cream time for me. I'll raid the fridge upstairs. I don't know.
There you go.
That's my vice, is ice cream. So I want to thank, sorry to the chat. I didn't really pay a ton of attention to you guys. I don't know if you asked any questions.
I saw a couple here and there. I tried to get some, but some of them we missed. But yeah, it happens.
Well, see, and I was debating in my mind if I wanted to make this a pre-recorded thing.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But I just decided to live stream it. But in the future, though, let us know. Definitely, this is a show that I'm still just trying to figure out. It's our first episode, so everybody who watches, leave comments and stuff of what you guys thought of it and what you think we should change. And if you'd like me to focus more on the chat, or if you enjoyed us just kind of directing the conversation ourselves. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And there'll be
back
more
tales from the stacks.
And back tales from the stacks. That's the other thing. Should I share my screen? Well, the link's in the description. I put the link in the description for Tales from the Stacks. It's a graphic novel that me and Professor Geek are working on together. He's the writer and I'm the artist. And it is an anthology series similar to like Tales from the Crypt or the Twilight Zone. We have 3 different stories of uncanny tales and eerie fun. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as explaining it as Professor is, but check out the link in the description and we appreciate it, all of our backers.
Help us get to
Look
that
forward to
20,000. Help us get to that
How
20,000
close
stretch goal.
How close are we?
We are 17,833. So
Okay.
chipping away at it.
So, and yeah, subscribe to Professor Geek. Anything? What else? You got any other? What do you got coming up
I'm gonna
on
do
your
a
channel?
Gonna do a review of the recent Elvira comics that have been out because I missed a few in terms of reviewing. So that's the very next thing I'm doing.
Okay.
So good stuff.
And yeah, and I'll try to keep doing more episodes of Geek Mythology. I don't know
These are fun.
if what the next episode will be. If maybe we'll get Professor Geek back on to talk about the hero's journey, or maybe we'll do manga and anime with Kyung Lee, but we'll see what happens.
Either way.
All right. What else? Anything else?
I think that's it. I think we're good.
I think we're good. All right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody for showing up. And just I need to get a little sign out thing like you have.
Oh yeah. We'll sign off.
Maybe you can sign us off.
Okay. Well, then.
For our until I get my own little outro. We'll borrow yours.
Okay.
For this time.
Let me see if I can alter it to your show here. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and until next time, keep delving deeper into geek mythology.
Yes, thank you.